Speaking of peel, is it true that you have an OnlyFans page and you can peel a banana with your feet?
I don't have one, and it's, I'll indulge you this. I just discovered what OnlyFans was about 3 weeks ago when it was brought up in a discussion in my office.
What do you think?
And I was oblivious to the whole concept.
You just can't tell the truth. All right, so
if you're George Santos and you made your way into the U.S. Congress based on exaggerations and obvious lies, and your colleagues just don't give a damn because they're so desperate for your vote, why wouldn't you just keep on lying about everything? He's not even that good at lying. He's just steadfast in it. Watch very closely when he seamlessly activates the dishonest part of his brain.
True that you have an OnlyFans page and you can peel a banana with your feet?
I don't have one, and it's, I'll indulge you this. I just discovered what OnlyFans was about 3 weeks ago.
You just can't tell the truth.
No, I don't think many people truly care if Santos has an OnlyFans page, but they might care that NBC News reported that it ate up a lot of his campaign funds. And even though some Republicans finally tried to expel him earlier this month, there unsurprisingly weren't enough members with principles to finish the job. But now that the mountain of conman evidence has grown to insurmountable levels with this new report, congressmen are now growing some new principles. But Representative Mike Lawler, he's been on it since early on.
Long past time for George Santos to go. If he had any dignity or decency, he would have resigned yesterday. But obviously we'll see between now and the time we get back whether or not he pleads guilty or resigns or both, and whether or not we obviously have to come back and expel him. I bet the votes are there. This isn't about party. This is about country. It's about the institution. And anyone who is serving in public office needs to hold themselves, and we need to hold them to a higher standard. George Santos has defrauded the voters. He defrauded donors. He defrauded the NRCC. His treasurer pleaded guilty about a month ago. A staffer pled guilty just this week to impersonating Kevin McCarthy's chief of staff on a phone call with donors to try and defraud them of money. And obviously, he misused campaign funds, including paying for, shopping sprees at Ferragamo and Hermes, and including a subscription to OnlyFans. I mean, it's absolutely absurd.
Lawler said this is not about party, but the country and the institution. He has to say that because the former Speaker of the House, who was swiftly kicked out, danced around Santos's issues and supported him because he needed his vote, even though Republicans are too dysfunctional to legislate with his vote anyway. So anyway, the new openly religious Speaker of the House, though, Mike Johnson, he must be responding to this news with the guidance of the Lord Jesus Christ himself, right?
We're working through those issues. I'll tell you, I talked to the authors of some of these resolutions today that want to deal with that. Here's the reality, Sean. We have a 4-seat majority in the House. It is possible that that number may be reduced even more in the coming weeks and months, and so we'll have what may be the most razor-thin majority in the history of the Congress. We have no margin for error, and so George Santos is due process, right? He is, my understanding is, I think he's appearing in a federal court tomorrow, and we have to allow due process to play itself out. That's what our system of justice is for.
He's not convicted, he's charged.
Not convicted, he's charged. And so if we're going to expel people from Congress just because they're charged with a crime, then, or accused, that's a problem.
At least when McCarthy protected Santos, he didn't openly point out that he's only doing it for his vote, and that his party and personal political success are more important than the principles that they keep claiming to have. So, of course, the principled Mike Lawler, who's been on the right side of this Santos drama from the very beginning, should have some disappointing words for the new unprincipled speaker.
We heard from Speaker Mike Johnson today. He says he's troubled by the report, but he didn't explicitly call for Santos to resign. Do you think that Speaker Johnson should?
Look, I'll let the Speaker speak for himself. I have said repeatedly that George Santos needs to resign. I called on him to resign going back to the beginning of the year. I called on him to resign when he was indicted.
But Speaker Johnson, I mean, he's the leader of your party, and you're saying that politics should not be put over that here. Don't you think that means, the leader should call on him to step aside?
Well, I think the Speaker said in his statement that, we need to put the institution above all else. And so I think, I would read between the lines there that George Santos needs to go.
I guess principles in politics aren't necessarily for Speaker Johnson, but when you're Representative Lawler and go from the guy that's been calling out Santos's removal from the beginning to having to read between the lines only to avoid this line.
Here's the reality, Sean. We have a 4-seat majority in the House, so we'll have what may be the most razor-thin majority in the history of the Congress. We have no margin for error.
It illustrates that the unprincipled voices always overrule the principled ones. And before you know it, your principles are flexing about how everyone is a liar. So why should we get rid of the biggest one?
You have admitted embellishing your resume. You've acknowledged it. You've apologized for it. Some have said that you shouldn't be seated on committees for it. I would offer that if we didn't seat people on committees who embellished their resume running for Congress, we probably wouldn't be able to make a quorum in any of those committees